Hi guys, it is an unbelievably, spectacularly gorgeous day here in the End Times in Paradise in Boulder, Colorado on this gorgeous Friday morning, October 20th, 2017. But we're not going to stick around here in Boulder because we're heading to Ontario, Canada, where it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce finally, and I have never spoken to this man myself, we're going to talk to my old buddy Treebeard. Treebeard, if you have been following Humpty Dumpty Tribe, you know that Treebeard has been actually up in the Arctic all summer. He recently got back from a 6-month tour of the Arctic, and we are going to just have a conversation for the next 30-45 minutes with Treebeard about what he found up there and what he thinks it means for humanity and the rest of this planet. So without further ado, I'm going to let Treebeard introduce himself, and then we're going to dive in to his big adventure. So Treebeard, say hi to the gang and tell us who you are.
Alrighty, well, greetings, Hambone and tribe members, and salutations from somewhere deep in the heart of a semi-pristine eastern deciduous forest in eastern Ontario, where the oaks and the maples grow tall and strong, where the creatures and nature's bounty outnumber humans. Before I begin, I would just like to thank Hambone for his tenacity and his videos and his strength of character. So I'd like to thank you for all your hard work, and just would maybe a little bit of a story here. I'd just like to maybe tell when I first heard of Hambone, kind of an interesting little story. I was up in doing some remote camping in northern Ontario. I had some friends, and usually one of the guys would always bring some collection of videos of some sort or another, but so this one particular time he brought up a collection of videos called Getting High in the Forest or something like that. Anyway, there was a collection of different people getting stoned in different parts of the world, and there happened to be a video by this guy named Hambone. I believe the video was called Getting High on the Kalalujah Express. I believe that was what it was. So anyway, it was hilarious. We all had a good laugh, and ever since then I've been following Hambone along all the way, and I guess it's been probably about 7 years I've been watching. So yes, I've been a long time watcher of yours. So it's as I say, it's to finally talk to you and bring some information to the tribe. I guess maybe what I'll do next is I'll just do a little bit of a quick background of myself. For myself, I grew up in small towns all over Ontario. My dad was a bank manager. We had a normal family, played hockey, spent lots of times in the outdoors. I had a grandfather who was a very avid fisherman and hunter, and so I got to spend lots of time with him in various beautiful, pristine places all throughout Ontario, doing that sort of lifestyle. And then pretty much after that, when I went to university, I studied geography for a number of years, and from there, I happened to meet a very nice young woman, and she took me to a lecture one time. It was called the Keeling Curve and its ramifications. And it was all about the CO2 in the atmosphere starting to, they finally had enough evidence to say that, yes, CO2 is gaining strength in the atmosphere. So it's pretty much there that opened the door to the rabbit hole for me.
So what year are we talking about that you first went down the rabbit hole?
Probably, it was, I'm going to say mid to late 80s.
Okay.
Somewhere in that area. And then after that, normally most people leave college or university, they do a backpacking thing through Europe where I decided with a small group of people we wanted to go see the most environmentally destructive sites in North America. So that's what we did for about a year, was go around from one coast to the other coast down in the United States, from one coast of the United States to the other, seeing all the environmentally destructive things that have happened on the planet. Just to see it with your own eyes, just to actually witness the scale, because seeing videos or reading books or textbooks really doesn't any justice until you actually can see it with your own eyes. So pretty much after that, I've been leading a life of a certain point where I just had enough, and I just wanted to find some peace and tranquility in life. So about 10 years ago, I moved out to this piece of property, 15 acres. I lived completely off the grid, solar. You know, I am a fossil fuel user. I use propane because, man, at my age, I got to have a hot shower. You know, I have those.
You do.
Phones.
Yeah.
So I got to get decent food, so that's where I am now.
Okay, so bring us up to how did you put together your journey to the far north? How did that come about?
Well, I did over the years, decades. I've done some jobs where I've worked like a logistics company that provides logistical support for expeditions, trips, personal camping trips, that sort of thing. So it got me the ability to get out and see some of these areas of Canada, and of course interact with people from all walks of life, from, you know, say your average Indigenous person to all the way up to your scientist person to you know, to your government bureaucrats and lobbyists and all that sort of jazz. So I've had some pretty good interesting interactions doing that sort of job, and you know, it just further reinforced my beliefs about the state of the environment, the state of the planet, and the state of what the human race is actually facing these days.
So what was the actual, I've always been a little unclear exactly what it was you signed up for, and so you headed off in late March. I mean, who were you actually part of a climatologist research team, or how would you describe it?
Describe it as like these scientific research teams, and that they all have to be supplied with food or material or whatever, and so I worked for a place that provided that material support, that logistical support. So then they would go off and do their thing, and I was fortunate enough to every once in a while to be able to accompany these people for short periods of time while brought supplies in and brought stuff out, that sort of deal. Okay.
So you got to meet a whole wide range of people all summer. It sounds like it was you were exposed to a wide variety of viewpoints and opinions, as well as seeing what's going on up there in the summer of 2017 with your own eyes. So how far north were you? Where were some of the actual geographical locations that you visited this summer?
I did some time in Ellesmere Island. I did Northwest Territories, Inuvik, Northern Ontario, parts of Northern Manitoba. I did a small little stint in Northern Saskatchewan at a remote camp there. So yeah, so I bounced around quite a bit, and but before I went, there's a lot of times I got to pick the job. So I would pick a job where, you know, something that interested me. Like I spoke about going to the place where the people were measuring all the outgassing coming out of the tundra, and actually seeing them do some science with that. And you know, that's stuff that I wanted to see and that I was interested in.
So give us some of your, I shudder to use the word highlights. Maybe we should call it lowlights of your 6 months. What are some of the most outstanding, holy shit, we're so fucked moments that you actually got to see with your own eyes?
Well, I guess probably the thing that stands out of my mind most is the change in the Arctic. Like, I've been up there about 20 years ago, and to see the change from then to now, and just see the extreme change in how everything is just changing at such a rapid rate. Like, it was just, there's times I was just literally dumbfounded at just the spectacle of just seeing how fast and how rapid this climate is destabilizing and changing. Like, it's in your face. Like, it really is in your face.
So give me some specific examples. Are you talking about setting fire to the little ponds in the tundra? Are you talking about glaciers calving or just the whole gestalt of what's crumbling up there?
Well, there's a number of issues. I think the one that probably strikes me the most is the melted permafrost. Like just seeing parts of the tundra that that are normally frozen, now they've got lakes and rivers running through them, and of course they're heating up, and all that biomass is all starting to vent gas. And I mean, we're not just talking 1,000 lakes; we're talking hundreds of thousands of pools and lakes, and just the vast scale of the amount of gas and stuff that's going to be that is coming out of that ground and coming into the atmosphere. Like it truly is just words can't even really describe to see it on the scale. Like reading numbers in a scientific report is one thing, because you don't you kind of understand the numbers, but to see it on a scope with your own eyes, it just really hits home and how much trouble we really are in as a planet and as a species.
Did you actually set? You see these videos of these people literally, throwing matches down in these permafrost pools. Did you do that at all?
I never did any of that sort of stuff, but I am aware of, because I've watched the videos as well as people setting the methane on fire. But yeah, I didn't personally witness or do any of that sort of thing.
So tell us about. Did you actually get to visit any glaciers that were literally calving and falling into the sea? Did you see any of that firsthand?
I've never ventured anywhere near that sort of thing. Like I wanted to go to Greenland once, but I never got a chance to make that trip. But as far as glaciers go, there's really not too much of that in my area. It's more tundra, and of course the seasonal sea ice. Like the Arctic freezes in the winter, and of course seeing the pictures, satellite pictures, but also talking to people on how much the ice cap has shrunk, even in the last 3 years. Probably since 2012, it's pretty horrifying to see how much of the ice is actually gone.
Did you actually get out on get out on the ocean in boats and?
Yes, I did. I did a couple of small, just basically through some of the inlets around the islands and that sort of thing. I mean, it's all open water. But I believe I rode the one where the people were studying the killer whales that were starting to come in from the Atlantic and starting to feed on the belugas and the narwhals and that sort of thing. And these whales, virtually had never seen pods of killer whales attacking them, and so they've been studying the whole change of the whole Arctic ecosystem as it warms up, and as all that warmer water flows in from the Atlantic side as well as from the Pacific side through the Bering Strait. So I mean, the whole ecosystem is changing up there rapidly.
So the orcas are taking so they're taking advantage of it, and so the narwhals and the belugas are kind of like the dodo bird when humans first came into their territory. Since they have no natural fear of them, they're just sitting like sitting ducks, and the orcas are having a feeding frenzy. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like that throughout the world. I mean, as the planet warms up, you're going to have all these species that are going to be migrating. And you see, especially in the oceans, because the oceans are changing so fast. You have, sharks and everything moving north. I mean, there's great white sharks off the coast of Canada this year. I mean, you had that big mass die-off of penguins there, I believe it was this week, where the cold water upwelling is all changing, so the adults aren't getting any food, so things are starting to starve to death. I mean, the whole thing is destabilizing.
Yep. So I know you need to be a little careful about who you were actually up there with, and I don't want you to certainly don't want you to go anywhere that might get yourself in some trouble with the actual research that was going on. But on a general, how would you generally characterize the climatologists were finding up there. What was their takeaway message? Let's start with the scientists first, and then we'll move to the indigenous people and whatnot.
Sure. You know, it's funny because all the scientists that I run into, you know, you can almost break them down into certain kinds of categories. You've got like scientists that, you know, they're very cautious. They don't really want to say too much. You know, they just kind of quietly go about your research. But I'm also finding more and more people, especially the younger ones, that are coming out and really talking about, you know, they're calling it like they're seeing it, you know, and the frustrations, the sadness, and all that. The fact that the governments just aren't listening to them. They're paying them the lip service, but they're not listening. They're not taking the warnings to heed. So there's some frustration there as well. And there's also a group of scientists that are just depressed collapsitarians that are just giving up and just say, you know, there's no point anymore because I know what I know, and I just don't want to. I want to spend what time I got left with my family or enjoying nature or whatever, right? So I mean, yeah, there's definitely some different breeds of scientists that are involved for sure.
So have you actually met some climatologists who you would describe as depressed collapsitarians who are just saying, you know, we're so fucked?
Absolutely. Like I have, there's a group of friends of mine that are all retired, and they've been traveling around. Every once in a while, they come by here and spend 4 or 5 days spending time with me out here, and you know, they all talk about that sort of thing. You know, finding that moment where they just realize that you know, it's too late unless there's a massive scale done. You know, we're in for it. You know, and then they've accepted it, and they're just trying to live their lives as best they can until they don't have any life anymore.
Yeah. Wow. And in a lot of your reports, it sounds like you also had quite a bit of interaction with the indigenous, I mean, the people who live up there year-round and have been up there their whole lives. What is the, from your conversations with them, what is your... What is the message you would like to bring from them to the tribe here?
Well, I didn't have too much interaction with the indigenous people. Like I've got a close friend who's an indigenous person, a First Nations person, and but some of the people that I did talk to, especially the elders, and that they, you know, of course they see what's going on, and they're concerned and worried, and they're concerned about their communities because I mean, indigenous or First Nations people have serious problems, you know, with drugs, with alcohol, with the lack of funding, clean water, school. So, you know, suicide. They've got all kinds of very hard social issues to deal with as well. So, I mean, you know, they're a struggling people, and but they're you know, I find them a generous, honest, you know, well-meaning bunch of people, and you know, it does sadden me to see, you know, the historical wrongs that have been done to them, and hopefully that you know, some of these wrongs can be righted.
So how are they adapting to what's going on literally in their backyards, or are they?
A lot of them aren't. They're just trying to just live their life. I mean, they don't have the resources that, you know. I mean, it's the same old story, right? I mean, it's just they're just trying to deal with it as best they can, and you know, that's about it.
Yeah, I guess we all are trying to deal with it the best we can. Well, I really want to move in. As I say, we're about probably halfway through this interview. I would love to. I really am planning to get up there and spend some time with you next summer. That's my intention. As long as I've got you on the phone, we've been. Again, I shudder to use the word enjoyed your reports that I've shared, probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 Treebeard reports that you've sent in from the front lines. I just wanted to talk about your own personal, how this trip has affected you personally, Are you more depressed today than you were 6 months ago? Do you see any signs of hope out there? Is it or is it all just from here on out? Waiting around for the fat lady to sing. So what are just some of your personal gut reactions to what you experienced the last 6 months of your life?
Well, I want to say, like, I'm not a depressed individual by any means. I'm a pretty easygoing, heartfelt person. But I do feel the sadness, and I do feel a little bit of the depression, the fact that nothing's being done. I mean, you got half the population doesn't even believe it exists. It's the coolest moron factor, right? I mean, that does bother me sometimes. But, the way I look at it, I spend a lot of time in the now. I'm a very now person. I like stretching the moments out. And being in nature does that. I mean, you spend lots of time out in the wilderness. You get the lonely feeling, but I mean, you live in the now. I mean, there's life all around you, and existing in that moment. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better place to be, because you're not worrying about all the bullshit that's going on, in the world. So I mean, I'm as I say, I'm just I have my moments, probably like everybody else, and I'm just trying to just live my life as the best I can, and because what's that saying? Don't sweat the small stuff, even though it's big stuff. But realistically, there's really not much we can do about it at this point. It's up to your own personal code or your ethos that how you want to live your life.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a wild guess here, Treebeard, that you are not a proponent of geoengineering solutions to what is going on in the Arctic in particular, and the rest of this planet.
Well, as far as geoengineering goes, I kind of got two schools of thought on that. We are going to get to the stage where it's going to start doing some Hail Mary kind of stuff, and I mean, really, the geoengineering stuff is really the only Hail Mary stuff left, because, I mean, short of stopping all global industrial activity, which is not going to happen, so obviously the solution's not going to be there. So, I mean, if there is some kind, I don't believe it's a solution. I just think it's too big, and it's too much resources to do a geoengineering project on the scale that's been needed, but I'm sure that they're going to try. They're going to try and do something because once things really start destabilizing, they're going to have to figure out, try to do something, because then it all becomes down about survival at that point, right?
Yes, it does. I'll just talk more and more. When we're talking about when the shit hits the fan, and when the shit really hits the fan. At some point we need to. At what point are we going to start changing our language and start saying the shit is hitting the fan? That we are in the middle of the flying feces right now in 2017. Do you know what I'm saying? Where do you think we are in the based on your observations and conversations with people? Where are we in the shit hitting the fan cycle?
Well, I just maybe to step back for a second. Just a lot. Like, I'm just going to use the example of the 3 superstorms that hit your country pretty heavily in Puerto Rico. I mean, those are storms, unprecedented storms, and even though they did mention, I mean, I heard a little bit of talk about it. But I mean, until the powers that be change the way they talk about things in big oil and the corruption and the corporations, until that changes, really nothing's gonna change. But it will change, because what's going to happen is things are going to start getting so ramped up, and you're going to start getting these storms with, I forget what it is, $300 billion in economic losses already. And once these economic hits really start getting bigger and stronger and more and more and more and more, then you're going to see the people finally coming out and saying, the shit's hit the fan. But I mean, personally, the shit has already hit the fan. Like, we're in rapid climate destabilization as we speak. I mean, there's no more doubt, there's no more question. It's 100%, you know, that this is happening, but it's just the powers that be that just won't let that happen. Because they don't want the world to riot. They don't want breakdown of social services. They want to keep the control, right? That's where we're at right now.
Well, we'll see how long they can they can keep this house of cards standing. I just, you know, with every day I wake up, I say, surely this house of cards is coming down. So, do you see? Is it going to be? What's going to be the first card to fall in your opinion? I always like to ask people: is it going to be the financial one that sets this whole unraveling into high gear, or is Mother Nature going to have to come over the, you know, before we pull our heads out of our asses about this global industrial economy? Who's going to throw, you know, the first serious punch? Is it going to be the powers that be, or Mama?
You know, that's one of the things I study quite a bit, is trends and patterns, stuff like that. And I've been kind of following this for actually a very long time. And I tend to look at it this way. I think that there's three pillars, what I call is an environmental pillar, an economic pillar, and then of course the biggie is the overpopulation pillar. And what's happening now is the pressure is being put on these pillars. Now the question is, which pillar is actually going to break first? Will it be the economic pillar, or the environmental pillar, or the overpopulation pillar? Because I mean, there's just so many people on this planet now eating the planet alive. Our economic system just can't keep up with it. So will the economic crash happen, or will it be big, massive storms that just start driving the economies into the ground? I mean, personally, I think it's probably going to be a combination of a number of them. You're going to see, as I say, these storms and economic loss ramping up, which causes an economic crisis. And I mean, and then of course the overpopulation thing. But I mean, in your country, you've got an orange-haired sphincter running the White House with his band of horsemen, and I mean, these people are just pure obliterated evil. And I mean, the whole financial sector. I mean, it's, and the debt and everything. So I mean, I think it could be a combination. It'll be one stupid thing will start the whole ball rolling, and then it's all gonna it all come crashing down.
Are you one of these people who puts a timeline on things, and is willing to venture a year when it's going to be so obvious to this planet that we're all fucked, or are you just watching the show?
Well, like, I mean, I hesitate to put a time prediction on it, because I mean, our planet and everything that's going on, and it's a fluid state. So I mean, the fluidity of the situations means that, you know, you really can, you can have maybe a justification of maybe a bit of a time period. Like, personally, I think that within, I'm going to say 5 years, we're going to start seeing the storms and the environment reacting in a very, very bad fashion. And like I said before, it's just going to start crippling economies. I mean, we've already had countries, some of those island countries where Hurricane Irma went through. I mean, it wiped off countries off the face of the earth. It'll just get to the point where it'll be the big countries, the big economies, and then of course you'll have the fights over resources and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I could see, you know, geez, 10 years anyway. I think things are going to be a whole lot different than what they are right now. And then as far as, you know, as far as say a total environmental collapse, I mean, I could honestly see 30, 40 years that there's going to be areas of the planet that are going to be virtually uninhabitable. You're going to, I mean, we're seeing now mass migrations. You know, you're going to see all the real nasties really start rearing their head. Like, I mean, I think we're on borrowed time now, personally.
Yep. Are you part of the what I guess we can loosely call the near-term human extinction movement. Are you part of that, into that rabbit hole?
I kind of consider myself a bit of a hybrid. I'm not an apocalyptic, and I'm not a doomer, but I'm kind of a hybrid between the two because I'm a huge science fiction guy. I love science. I Star Trek, Star Wars. I mean, a bit of a nerd that way, and so I spent a lot of years reading a lot of science fiction and just what I understand about the human species and our history on this planet. I do think that there are going to be pockets of human survivors in some parts of this planet. I do believe that, and the only question is will the environment or will these small pockets be able to withstand the onslaught of Mother Nature? And that'll be the question. But I do believe that there will be pockets of human survivability that'll probably be able to go forward after the generations and maybe learn from our mistakes and evolve into that next level of human evolution. That I think that's where we're at right now. We're at that point where we need to evolve or we're going to go extinct, right? I mean, even I'm a bit of an amateur astronomer as well, so I spend lots of time looking out at the heavens and seeing that awe and reverence of the universe around us. And I don't believe that we're alone in this universe, but I also believe in the number factor as well, that certain civilizations in the galaxy have evolved to certain points and have wiped themselves out, and it's only the ones that have been able to evolve to that next level of consciousness where they could start harnessing energy like fusion and get away from the dirty, environmentally destructive practices where we are as a society and as a species now.
And do you think we have it in us as a species to get to that point?
I think we do. I do put a certain amount of faith in a certain small percentage of the human race because I do think that we are intelligent enough, we are smart enough, we are emotionally mature enough to be able to do that. But I guess it just needs the right stew pot to kind of maybe make that things happen instead of being stuck into the rut that we are now as a civilization.
We are in a rut as a civilization for sure. I want to, wow, we're already up to 33 minutes here. I want to switch gears a little bit simply because we don't get a lot of information down here. So much ink is being spilled as it needs to be over Mr. You-know-who, Mr. Planet Eater in Chief. I want to get your opinion of your own guy, Trudeau. I'm just curious, what is your reading of that guy and where he is taking Canada, and is he just one more corporate whore to the fossil fuel industry, or what's going on with that guy?
Well, personally, as a Canadian, I've always voted or thrown my support in behind the Green Party. But as far as Justin goes, I mean, on one hand, I like him. He's young. He's progressive. He does seem to have a very good understanding of the situation. He's smart. He's intelligent. But he's like any other politician. I mean, we've got some big players in this country, big corporate interests, oil being one of them. And you've got to you've got to almost play in bed with those guys, because if you don't, then you're not going to last too long. But I mean, some of the decisions he's made, I'm disappointed in. I thought he was going to be a little bit better on the environment. They talk a good game. They've got a minister of climate change. I mean, they talk a good game, but I mean, realistically, on the ground, they really haven't done too much. And unfortunately, I think a lot of it has to do with the idiot in the White House and the pressure that he's putting on this country. Because I think if, even though I'm let's just put it this way, I would have rather seen Hillary win than Trump, because I think, she would have kept some of the stuff that at least they tried to do, or at least they said they were going to do, at least kind of keep the ball moving forward a bit at a time. I mean, on that respect. But I think now that his hands are a little bit more tied, yeah, it's hard to say which direction he's going to go. But I'm just glad we don't have any we have conservatives, and they're like your Republicans, and I'm glad we've already gone through a very bad conservative government up here with Stephen Harper, who just expanded the oil sands, did all kinds of scientists, the right wing. He's a Christian, born again Christian guy, and I mean, you just can't have people like that, doing that sort of thing, because it just doesn't solve the problems that need to be solved. So, I guess in my political views, that's probably where I am on Trudeau.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to be he is young, but he is going to be a long-term player, right? I mean, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, I think he's going to stick around because, I do give credit to Canadians that way. Like, we tend to, we're a little more pragmatic. We tend to, we follow our politics a little bit differently here. We don't have the, let's just say the strife in this country politically as you guys have in your country, with the Republicans hating the Democrats and everybody else in between, and you just can't get anything done. They just do stuff to spite them, right? There's no cooperation at all. And at least in this country, our form of government and our form of parliament, there's still there's still parts of cooperation that do happen. So.
Okay. Well, I guess how I tend to wrap up all of my Humpty Dumpty Tribe interviews is just what is your advice to folks, and especially to young folks? I guess you and I are about the same age. We look to be. I mean, I'm 58. Is that about how old you are?
Just turned 51 in August.
Oh, okay. So you're a youngster. All right. Well, welcome aboard to the 50s. Like Humpty Dumpty Tribe, the 50s is not for pussies, as they say. But anyway, what is your after being down this rabbit hole? Good Lord, you're saying all the way back in the 1980s. What is your advice to particularly young folks just opening their, pulling their heads out of their asses and opening their eyes to what is really unfolding on this planet? What are they supposed to do with the rest of their lives with this knowledge that we're so fucked? What's the best they can do?
Well, it's funny you say that about young people. I'm a dad. I have a 25-year-old daughter and I have a 19-year-old son. And what I try to tell them, or what I see from them, is that their generation, they're so plugged in, they're so got that phone stuck in their face, and they sure don't understand, almost not the real world. They're living in a digital, computer-filled world where everything's in front of their face. And I mean, I don't know what to say is to young people, just start learning to unplug a little bit and start getting out there in the world and seeing the world for the beauty that it is. Now, as far as my advice goes to everybody else, even at my age or older, I mean, at this point of the stage, I mean, I think you've really only got a few choices left. I mean, I know for me personally, my goal is to survive as long as possible. I mean, that's my goal, and so I've taken some measures, and that's what I'm going to do, because we're headed for some bad times, and I don't want to be one of these people that are going to get shot over a gallon of gas, or try to go to a food store and the food store is totally emptied in 24 hours. So I mean, I think you need to do a little bit of preparing. You need to get a little bit mentally prepared and physically prepared, and just be aware of what's going on in the world and aware of your situations, and have some plans to deal with these issues that are going to be coming. I mean, all you have to do is look at when they have these big mass evacuations out of the state of Florida. I mean, just imagine that on a scale. It's just really hard to you know, to comprehend something like that. And I think the second thing too is when you start feeling depressed, or when you start feeling sad, and you start going down those negative emotions, is just bring yourself back to a neutral point. Just really appreciate your time, because I believe that we're alive right now at the greatest moment of human history. Because, you know, whether, you know, like I say, my dad's generation, he went through World War II, or when you went through the Great Depression, we are actually going to be witnessing the possible human extinction, or the extinction of the planet as we know it. I mean, what a better time to be a witness, to be alive at such a pivotal point in human civilization, considering we've been around, you know, human civilization has been around for 6,000 years. So our little time frame that we're alive in right now, I mean, I think it's important to find that point in your psyche where, you know, you can exist, you know, in a spot that, you know, that you're comfortable with, and that you're at peace with, and not let things drag you down to the ground. Because, I mean, life will drive you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. And life is pretty hard these days, and life is difficult, and you got to be able to, you know, be resilient and show a little bit of strength of character, and have some heart, and some compassion, and some empathy. And I think, you know, you kind of give yourself that bubble, and I think that you know, you should you know, get through the hard times, because the hard times are coming.
There you go, brother. The hard times are coming, and I think that probably is good a place to wrap up as any. If you have a takeaway message that you want to leave the tribe with, boiling it all down into 1 minute, what is your takeaway message to Humpty Dumpty tribe?
I just a quote comes to my mind from one of my personal heroes, David Suzuki, and he said once, he said, "We're in a giant car heading towards a brick wall, and everyone's arguing over where they're going to sit." But I'd want to have on the radio, I want to stick in some Boston, or some Pink Floyd, or some Led Zeppelin, or Judas Priest, some Hayden, and crank those tunes up, spark a fatty, and just you know, just live in the moment.
There you go. Spark a fatty and live in the moment. I think those are as sage advice for the end times as I can think of. Now I'm gonna stick around, because I want to talk to you for a moment, but I'm going to officially want to thank Brother Treebeard for coming on and sharing his thoughts and his heartfelt feelings. And we look forward to your comments, and I do look forward to seeing you in person, brother. Probably thinking maybe August of next year, if you're around, and we will meet Brother Treebeard in person. Until that time, peace be with you, brother.
Peace be with you, and to everybody in the tribe, stay strong. You're not alone, and we're all in this together. So I hope everybody takes care, and thanks for listening.
And thank you, brother. Sign out. So I am going to say, as I always do, smoke 'em if you got 'em, guys. And get out there and enjoy this beautiful day in the end times while you still can. Bye, guys.